Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to be getting started shortly. Just letting some more people join the meeting, and then we'll start sharing the screen as well. Let's see. Today we're going to be going over simple tips to improve your website instantly. The tips are focused more so on things that you can do with an existing website that's already established and aren't necessarily things that you need to do, you completely redesign your website over. If you can hear me all right, then I'm going to assume I'm trying out my new microphone, so I don't have to wear the headset. But if anyone is having trouble hearing me, please feel free to shoot a chat over so that I know. Let's see. All right, great. It's working well. Definitely wouldn't want to do the whole presentation where you're trying to lip read. So as I was saying, we're going to get started going through. Oh, that reminds me, the chat. You can chat questions, and there's going to be Q&A at the end. There is also a feature called Q&A, so you can either chat your questions or you can put it into the Q&A area, and that's another good way to submit your questions, and we'll go through those at the end as well. All right, so we're about a minute past 12, so I think we can pretty much dive into the presentation and go from there. So let me get these windows out of the way so that I can do that. Let's start the presentation. Okay. All right, so this is a presentation I've made before, and it's been updated with some new info. Has been updated with new samples and examples. So that's definitely going to bring it up to date, and also just more thoughts as we go through it of modern web design and things to keep in mind to improve your websites. So the presentation overview and goal, as I mentioned before, is I'm trying to stick with simple tips that'll improve the website. Doesn't necessarily mean your site needs to do every single thing I mentioned today, but even a few of them could be enough to snowball into even more improvements and get those better results that you're going for over time. Heading into reevaluating your website, as many organizations and companies do going into the new year. It shouldn't be something you only do once a year, but a lot of companies do, basically once a year for the new year, think about what can we do to improve a lot of things. And one of them ends up being, how can we improve our website? Before you even start, in a lot of cases nowadays, you can log in and do a lot of this yourself. But before you do that, I definitely recommend taking a step back and asking yourself these questions. What do you want from your website? What have you been getting from your site? Are people contacting you through the site? Are they calling? Are they signing up for your email list? Maybe that's something that you have going on and is working well, but it's been so many times when we start redesigning a website, and upon evaluating it, we find out that they have a very active newsletter that produces leads, and there's hardly any way to even get onto that email list from the site. So that's definitely just an example of, aside from getting sales or leads or things like that, that's just an example of other things you can get out of your website. Building your email list, or basically getting people into your pipeline a little. We're going to cover a little of that as we go through the presentation. Think about who will be visiting your website. Different organizations have different types of audiences and personas. And, depending on those different groups of people and audiences, you need to start thinking about what do they want and what questions do they have. And that's just important to think ahead to, in terms of when you're thinking what content, what information do you have on your site? Are we addressing all those questions, and are we covering, showing that your company is or organization is kind of what matches up with what they want and what they need, and lines up with problems that they have, and your solutions, how your solutions line up with those problems. So kind of rethinking all of that can definitely spark some inspiration on maybe we need to add a frequently asked questions page by each type of person. That's definitely something that I've seen done, that just as an example. And what is your offer? You know, if you go and visit all your competitors' websites, and you notice that maybe they have a little bit more of a unique offer than yours, you know, are you doing something generic like request a quote or request a consultation? Or can you go a step further and have, you know, contact us today and get this kind of offer? So just making sure the site has an offer in general is important, but if you just have a generic offer that's really not enticing, then you can rethink what is a better offer. We're working with a real estate office now on the offer used to be a free market analysis. And when you think about it, a lot of their audience of sellers might not know what the heck that is. You know, so it's being renamed to more of a, what's my home worth? You know, what's my house worth offer? So it's simplifying it and changing the offer and tweaking it in a very small way could make it more likely that you're actually going to get conversions for people coming through the website. I also recommend doing a Google Analytics checkup. Even if you don't look at Google Analytics, for the most part, it's kind of a standard thing that web designers will put on a website, hopefully, so that, you know, even if you're not looking at it, at least at some point in time, you can log into your Google Analytics account. And the reason to do that is to get a better feel for, out of all the pages on your website, you know, what pages are getting the most page views. It's going to give you a better idea of how people are using the website. And you might get some insights and realize, wow, you know, our second most visited page is our team page. And we don't even have headshots on our team page. We don't even have pictures on our team page. So it can get you remotivated and help you get a prioritized list where if there's a page on your website that's getting very low traffic, maybe it's not worth the time to focus on that page ahead of other pages that are getting all that traffic. It might also give you some insight and say, why is this page not getting any traffic? You know, maybe it's too hard to find. Maybe it's at the bottom of the list. Maybe it's in a drop down on some in an unintuitive way. So definitely doing a Google Analytics checkup and looking at your stats can help you prioritize your list. You know, aside from just off the top of your head thinking, you know, what should I do to improve my site? So, but that does lead me to talk a little bit about the homepage. For most websites that we work with, almost all, the homepage is by far the most visited page, by far gets the most page views. So that's why I do have a little bit more time talking about the homepage. Some of what we're talking about for homepages could be applied to any page. Homepage is a landing page. Like we were saying, it's probably the most visited landing page that your site has. But any entry page, any way that somebody's getting directly from being on their computer to on your website, if it's not the homepage, it could still be a page that you're driving people to through an advertising campaign or a Facebook post or any way that any entry traffic into the site. But let's talk a little bit about it in the context of a homepage. The easiest thing with a homepage is after you do your initial planning of what do you want, who are the audiences, what do they care about, what is your offer, and so on, you need to start maybe putting that into a checklist for what do we want to cover on the homepage and as quickly as possible. As well as the homepage, we're also thinking ahead to the global template of the header and the footer of your website. And we're going to show some examples of those too as we go along. A typical checklist will at least have what makes you different, really putting that at the top of the page. So that's the first thing that they'll see and get. What actions, you know, we driving towards? What is the offer that the conversion that we're hoping for? Can we send people straight to that conversion, or do we have a path in mind where we know they're going to at least want to see the services page and then the pricing page, and then they're going to fill out that end goal? Starting to think about that and where we want to drive that homepage traffic to, and it can be broken up by your different type of audience as well. And then how do you do it? Sometimes there's services, you know, just listed. Sometimes there's one solution that you're offering, and then that's when you'll have those 3 blocks of how you do it. So I'll show that in an example. kind of like how my website is set up actually. So that'll be a good one for that bullet point. How can you show your credibility? Is it through reviews? Is it through licenses or affiliations? Pretty much anything that you have that you can back up what you're saying on the homepage. This is a pretty good item to have on the page. You see a lot of websites have the scrolling testimonials on it. Those are pretty good. Personally think reviews are even better. Aside from the reviews, there's also just different logos and things like that you can show and then link to those full reviews. And how can you show you're active? On a homepage, it's always nice to have some kind of blog feed, or sometimes you'll have a Facebook feed, something that's updating frequently on the homepage is a nice thing to have on that checklist, but it does usually get lower priority. So if you're thinking about your homepage and screenfuls, the first screen is all about, kind of a higher level of what you do and how you're different. And then from there, also leading in that first screenful, what action you're driving towards is usually a part of that. How you do it might be the next row, kind of combined with the credibility. And then you're getting into the blog feed. So as people are scrolling down the page, they're learning more about your organization, and then they're seeing that you're active and maybe some of the resources that you're putting out that are relevant to them. Just wanted to get into some examples. I have the examples pulled up on my other screen here. I'm going to drag them in. But for the sake of sharing this presentation, these are the links that I'm going to share. This one I'll actually update. We're launching this site today, so I'll update that one after we're done here. So I'm just going to go through some homepage examples. We recently redesigned our website. So in our industry, this is kind of the direction a lot of agencies are going, and a lot of our prospects, our audience is wanting to see this use of white space on web design. Certainly in under other industries, we would go in a different direction. But what we did was, we know that our prospects are typically in the modern web looking for a partner, an ongoing person to work with them on their website. It was much too common, and still is, that people build websites and web companies build sites, and they're really just living off that next project. So once they finish your site, they're praying you don't call or need changes or need help. So we definitely take a lot of pride in feeling like we're looking to be your ongoing web partner. We're going to do our best to support the site that we can and make recommendations where we can, and basically help you succeed online. So that is how we're different. I try to highlight that here. I have a special link over to our work, because I know a lot of people like to see samples right away. And then I have a spot to read reviews. So I know that my audience is usually, if it's not somebody that was a direct referral, usually they need to know that I have good reviews and our company has good reviews, and they want to see that we've actually have a work history. And then how we do it, like we said before, is web design, hosting and support plans, and lead generation services. That's basically digital marketing. I have a little bit of background information about us. I have a work feed, some more testimonials, and then kind of like what are we doing lately that you want to read, content that you want to read up on, and then a little call to action. So that's just a good example of how a service provider's page might flow, like myself. Here's another one that is also a service provider. So you can see right on here, his offer is nice. It's a get an evaluation. He's a financial planner, providing personalized investment management to meet all your financial goals and needs. And he took it from the standpoint of problem solving or offering solutions, how we help. So instead of having a feed of like, we do this tax stuff and we do this financial planning, he went to the and this is a good kind of way to look at it if you are a service provider. He knows that there's three groups of people, or two main groups of people. There's people who want to maximize their portfolio. Maybe they have their money in some account that's just kind of sitting there and it's like safe, but it's also not really maximizing the portfolio, like he said. So that's for that group of that audience. And then the middle one is for gaining financial security. So those are people that maybe they're getting closer to retirement and they just want to make sure they have enough money to do so and really just be secure. So he also caters to that. And then this kind of caters to both audiences where they want a more personalized approach to their wealth management. So that was interesting. And this was different than his competitors that we looked at, which the competitors were a lot more just service listing of like what they do if you're with, you know, if you're going to work with them versus the problems they solve. So that was what we did on that homepage. And then here you have about the firm, and this is how he stays active with his quarterly market insights blog and his latest tweets. So that's something that's always updating on its own, as long as he's doing it. So that's what we have there. Another example of a recent attorney we did a site for, and this client who's great to work with too. He wanted a very, almost like my site, little bit very minimal approach to it to separate himself from his competitors, which a lot of attorney websites are just pretty similar and boxy, and the scales of justice and all that stuff like that. So he went a much more just minimal approach with the tying everything together, and he gets right into what he does. So this is a little bit different than what we talked about before, but these are based on his audience, because there's audience that wants bankruptcy and that wants family law. So we want to get them to the relevant pages very quickly. And that's what this section is doing. And then why choose us? So we have a video. So we were actually able to combine his credibility with his Why Us video, because we put the AVVO logo and the Google stars and the Bar Association logo on this graphic. So it was nice to be able to kind of get almost a 2-for-1 with the Why Us combined with those logos. And then as you scroll down, it gets into his featured resources. So very similar on that one. And then this was an interesting one, because there is so much that can go on the Greater Lynn Chamber of Commerce website. So the main offer that's in the top and the middle is kind of broken between becoming a member if you're not already, and local deals. And what that does is the local deals is meant to more so serve the community, so that people will view member deals and use their special offers. And then the become a member is for the local business community who is not already a member of the chamber. And then in the top right here, this is more so for links that the Greater Lynn Chamber of Commerce can update for members. So member login, pay online. And then if there is a big upcoming event, they can put a little extra link to it there. And then when we go down, a lot of the members that come to the site do want to come and see, you know, what's coming up. So we have a virtual noontime networking event there. And then it also feeds in other highlighted events. So I'm going to be attending the virtual noontime networking. Those are actually pretty fun to do, pretty easy to pop in and get to know who else is in your business community. What's happening at the Greater Lynn Chamber of Commerce. So they got that Facebook. I have to reload my page, but let's keep going here. And then we have the email sponsors. So you can kind of see how these pages flow, just to get an example for a homepage, and kind of, you know, the elements and the pieces that you're looking for on a lot of these modern homepages. Now, when you think about your offer and you think about how people are going to reach out to you, a lot of websites you'll see that really the only way to fill out a form or contact them is through the contact page. But certainly more ways than that to integrate into the site to get those additional leads. This was on the other sample I showed. So this is a white paper download. So this is a way that we're working to try to get more people to sign up for his email list. And this is, we have one of these for each of his main services. So this one was a pop-up that basically 6 reasons why you should hire a bankruptcy attorney. And it's just meant to be something that even if you're not ready to reach out and schedule a consultation, maybe this is something that might be of interest to you if you're in this predicament. Another one is a pricing teaser. So if it's possible, it's always nice if you have some kind of like even ballpark standard pricing that you can share. This is a very good offer. This is managed IT service provider. So instead of just paying for somebody to come in and out and charge your hourly, you're having somebody that's more proactive for a monthly fee. And we can say, you know, fill out the form and you'll be able to see what that flat rate fee is. So that's a good way, especially in this industry where IT, usually you would never have an idea of what the pricing is until you schedule a consultation. So in this industry, it's kind of nice being able to offer that. If you're in an industry like, we have one that's a dog trainer, And another one, if you're in an industry where people just show their pricing on their website anyway, you wouldn't want to use this as a tactic, because then people just get frustrated that I went to 2 other sites, saw their pricing, now I can't see it on yours. But just if it is something you can do, it's definitely worth looking into, because it can help the overall rate at which you're getting leads through your site. This is an old site, but it's just always amazed me how many email addresses this client was able to get on his email list. He just did enter your email below and get $3 off your next car wash. So that was pretty amazing, because he was able to get hundreds and hundreds of email addresses over the course of the year. And then this is the time of year where he's able to market back to those people who signed up to buy gift cards around the holidays. And that's just a very effective way of doing it. And, never ceases to amaze me how many signups he was able to get with that. Talk a little bit, you saw some of them on these examples, but I'm just going to talk in a little bit more depth about the different call to action tactics. One is a pop-up. A lot of people cringe over the thought of pop-ups, but they really do work pretty well. And the strategy with the pop-up is to really just try to figure out, how can we make it not intrusive to the overall user experience? One thing you can do is just enable the pop-up on certain relevant pages, so that you're not showing a pop-up of something that's completely irrelevant to what they're looking at. You can make it so it shows right away or after a period of time. You can make it so the pop-up only shows once you've scrolled down a certain percentage of the page, maybe 50% of the page is a good one. And then there's also exit intent. So you can make it so that pop-up only shows when the website detects that person's about to leave the website. That's based on the cursor. If you're a website with a very high amount of mobile traffic, the exit intent doesn't work and it wouldn't be recommended. For my website, I'm about 75–80% desktop traffic as a business to business kind of company. But if you're a restaurant or something like that, where you're getting mostly mobile traffic, and you want to actually get people signing up for your list using a pop-up, then having the pop-up show right away would probably be the better route. And we have seen that it works really well. Talking a little bit also about top bars. So that's when you have basically the content pushed down on the page. I have one on my website right now where it's, what is Google Business and how to use it to increase SEO, watch now. So that's just another way to basically add in a call to action onto the page easily. And it's a good example for today's presentation, because it's something that can be added to any website without doing anything else. So that makes it nice and easy to do. Slide-ins, people love these slide-ins. I always like them too, where it's basically in the bottom right corner of the page, where it kind of just casually comes up from the bottom right and asks you to sign up for the email list. That's definitely a very effective way to get email signups or things like that without being too intrusive. Go into a little bit of design tips, focusing mainly on fonts and things like that, just because we don't want to talk about doing a whole redesign today. It's more so about little tiny tweaks you can do. Body fonts, we're thinking around 16 pixels is a minimum now. We do want a nice big font. You want to use web-friendly fonts, and please don't use script fonts. Maybe you can get away with it on headings here and there if it's not too bad, but nobody wants to read script in the body text of the pages. Make sure you have a very good contrast between the wording and the background. You don't want to have a light text against a light background, or vice versa, dark against dark. Avoid all caps. You see a lot of websites and templates that are out there where all the headings are all caps and the blog titles are all caps. And sometimes you get almost like a sentence in all caps in some cases. And it just, aside from looking kind of silly on the page because this breaks down to so many lines, it's also just kind of hard to read. Then also use headers. So making it so that your heading 1 is the biggest and your heading 2 is a little bit smaller. And that helps control things better on the page. And that the contrast and the headers are also important in general for accessibility. Then people viewing your website that might have a vision impairment. So if you're serving an older demographic, especially, you'll want to follow those guidelines. Also, this is a big one that we see a lot, especially like if you're on Squarespace or a lot of those other template sites or any site in general. You want to try to go and, you know, make sure the structure of the paragraphs is good. And one thing that people don't think about, but is so true, is we really prefer to read, think about a newspaper and call like short columns. Otherwise, your eyes get tired reading, especially nowadays. I have a 25-inch screen. So if I have the one sentence starting on the left side of the screen and ending on the right side of the screen, it's very difficult to quickly scan and read a page. So you do want to stay more in this kind of narrower column. You don't want to be completely, you know, like this, but right in this range here is really a good range to focus on. And there's also leading. So this, I've been amazed at how well this really can make a page look so much better, where you get that line height just right. So you can kind of see the difference where this is like a single space and this is like a double spaced. And right in the middle here is a good kind of easy readability level. So that's pretty much right where you want to be. Just thinking back to the days of trying to use double space to get your papers a little bit longer. Here's a little example of just how contrast can make quite a difference within a page. So this is the before. You can kind of see that it's light text on a gray background, and really kind of hard to read that text in my opinion. And then the after is just, you know, pretty much darker text against a white background, and it's just a lot easier to read. And you can see it's like night and day, and such a quick, simple edit, but definitely the whole website is much easier to browse. You don't want to stay consistent with your colors throughout the site of your logo and your brand. So that's definitely important. And you don't want to use too many fonts or font sizes. So consistency is important so that people don't get all kind of confused and get a headache looking at your website because there's so many different fonts and sizes and things like that. And sometimes on some of these web editors, clients are like, I can't change the font. You know, it's not like in Word, but that's kind of on purpose. Like you really shouldn't be changing the fonts too many times throughout. And same thing with the colors. Photography. This has become a big differentiator for smaller businesses to compete with larger ones that is having, you know, if you don't have really good photos, typically the iPhone photos really do not look good on websites. They look, you know, maybe you can use them within blogs or if you're trying to show a quick before and after within the page, but you definitely for your home page and kind of like for your key images throughout the site want to use high quality. So you can use stock images combined or professional photography. So I'm going to show some examples of clients who have gone the professional photography route. So this is a builder. So you can see that they actually had a photographer come and do shots one day actually on site. So you can see you have the saw going here, you have the team photo on the bottom right, and it really made for a much more personalized homepage. This is an attorney where it's the team of 4 standing, and it's a very good opening to the page. And he's an attorney that focuses on suing attorneys that have made mistakes. So that's why they're all a little bit more serious than maybe the other service areas would be. But I thought this was this photo just looked great, and this nice opening. It's not just that typical attorney site where it's, you know, big, you have the Boston skyline here behind the form, that's fine. But sometimes a lot of these attorney sites is just shot of Boston, and then, you know, it's not very personal. So when you have that photo of the team right on the front page, I think it definitely adds to the overall effectiveness. Any builder, like this is a custom builder in Newton, so getting the professional photography of your listings is definitely very important. One of our people that we refer and a client is Lightshed Photography out of Salem. They're an amazing commercial photographer, specializes a lot in real estate, so highly recommend them. They didn't do this particular picture, but they could, drone photography. Also modern sites, this is definitely getting phased out more and more every year, so you don't see them as much, but still worth mentioning. Full width versus boxed. So this is an example of a boxed site. You can kind of see the margin on the left and right. And then this is an example of a full width site. So you can kind of see the difference when you can use that full screen image versus having those margins on each side. Website definitely needs to be mobile responsive, so it'll adapt to smaller screens, tablets and mobile devices, as well as just a small laptop. If your website can't be made responsive, you can look at Duda and some of the Duda.co and some of those sites to kind of have a mobile site. And at the end of the day, you do want to get a website that's just going to adapt. And it does have an effect on your search engine rankings as well. So even if you're a site that has a high amount of desktop traffic, still highly recommend having a mobile responsive website. All right, so the other thing that you can do without completely redesigning a website or even having a super impressive looking website is making your site easy to use. That's probably at the top of most of your prospects' lists. Once they've decided that you look professional within the first couple seconds of coming on the site, now they just want to find what they need. One thing is to just be predictable and follow some of the standards. So make your logo on your website link to the homepage. That's becoming just a global kind of thing that everybody knows to do. If you do have home in your navigation, you put it first, make it the first link. People expect that there. We, in the last year or two, haven't been even putting home into the navigation menu just because it is so widely, just seems like everybody knows to click on the logo, even regardless almost of the demographic and the technical level from when I've just watched people use websites. Call your services page services, about, contact, and make the contact the last link. There's a lot of do-it-yourself websites you see out there where they won't even have a contact page because they're like, well, it's in the top of the site or it's in the bottom, but people just are trained to look for that contact link in the last link. So let them find it. Be easy to contact. I prefer to have the phone number and or email at the top and bottom of every page throughout the entire site. If you're active on social media, put those in the top and the bottom of the website as well. Part of what we love designing headers and navigations is definitely part of the challenge of designing an effective website. Here's the old banner, the old header of my old website. And you can see we had, just too many, we had so many items. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 navigation items. We had the social media at the top. In my case, I decided I don't think we really want that in the top. We can just stick it at the bottom. And then we had no real just separate call to action button. We just had the phone number. So in our new site, we trimmed it down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 navigation items, simplified the wording of each. And now we have the phone number and a next steps call to action button, which drops down and lets you either schedule a call or send a message or whatever your conversion path is. I'm going to be adding in some other next steps as well. Some sites have a lot of stuff you have to get into the header. We looked at this before, and you can see that, you can organize it. We have the language switcher, the search box, the phone number, the address, the social media in the top right, the quick links. So there are ways within headers that you can nicely organize everything and have it easy to find when there's so much going on in the organization. This one's very similar header that we did. We have the quick links here and the navigation. And then you do want, as you do add more items to the top bar, you do have to think ahead towards mobile. So I just wanted to show how the mobile menu works on that one. That's a little more complicated. The buttons get moved to the hamburger menu when it's clicked. So this is the click state, urgent care, request an appointment, and the drop downs. And then you can see here, it keeps language switcher, phone number, and address always available. And in the footer, it's definitely become expected to get to that footer and have kind of a tree of the navigation links and the drop downs. So that's what this is showing. And then just some more best practices: search engine optimization, submit your website to Google and Bing, claim your Google and Bing pages online, update them as much as you can, and just be cautious of 301 redirect. So if you do delete a page on your website, set up a forwarding link for that old link to the new one. That's important for SEO, very important, because you don't have 404 errors. And if you do submit your website to Google, you can use Google Search Console or for some really good insights of what words your website's ranking for. And that's a whole nother presentation, but I highly suggest, using Google Search Console to go in and get some insights on other things that you can be doing for SEO. Probably make that maybe a webinar coming up pretty soon, just to demonstrate some of the capabilities. Just when you're doing your on-page SEO, a lot of the WordPress, there's a plugin called Yoast. These settings are also on other templated programs, but making sure your URLs are SEO friendly. Start your title with your keyword, like in our case, it's web design. Modifiers to your title, images, so there's all these different things you can do for on-page SEO that can make it a little bit better and a little bit better. And also one thing that if you've already done all of this, a little tip to go back and do is just to really make sure you're using internal links on your website. So going through and, as you're talking through different points of on a page, providing links to other pages on your website, it helps Google understand your site better and how it's all kind of mapped together. And it will also keep people on your website longer by giving them more ways to enter into some of those other sub pages. For local SEO, we just did a webinar and a blog on this. I put the link in the bottom. Google My Business has been amazing for local businesses and SEO. It's been great for us. Definitely claim your Google business page. You can read our blog or watch our previous webinar on this link. That's more about that, but just highly recommend claiming it, filling in your profile, and trying to get as many reviews as possible. And it will help you a lot when people are doing local searches. Page speed optimization is important as well, especially because over time things can change with how pages are scored, and just so many moving parts with websites. So it is something to check in on every now and again to see, what needs to be done to stay up to date and up to speed. The easiest thing to do is add a page speed caching plugin onto your site, so that basically your website is stored and saved, and then makes it so it loads faster for future visitors. GTmetrix is a good website to go to get some insights on page speed. So I'll kind of just show you what that does here. So basically you go to this gtmetrix.com, you plug your website address into it, and it will analyze your website and give you tips of how long is it taking for your site to load, and what are basically some suggested tweaks. So I'll just show you ours. So we just redid our site, so our scores, we did focus on the scoring on that as we were building it, as we do with all sites as they're being built, but they do require some ongoing management. So let's see what we have. All right, so you can see we have A on performance and structure. And as we go down, we can see one thing that's suggesting is here, and our site's taking about 1.8 seconds to load. So for most sites, if you can get below 3.5, 4 seconds, that's considered pretty sufficient as well. And there's a lot of things that go into that. All right. Just if you don't already have tracking your site, definitely get Google Analytics added to your site. That would even be a nice tip or a simple improvement for you. And also add Lucky Orange. Lucky Orange actually records what people are doing on your website, so you can kind of get a better feel for what people are doing. And it also makes a cumulative heat map, so you can see how far are they scrolling down the page, what buttons are getting clicked on. And you can also toggle between mobile and desktop for all that information. So it's really, really helpful in my opinion. All right, so I did get through all the tips, and now that we did that, I'm ready to go through and check for any questions that were submitted here. And then I'll just share my screen again and hopefully address all those. So feel free to chat in your questions now or submit them in the Q&A tool. So there was one chat I saw blinking, and I'm assuming it was a question. So let me see if I can I can find that. Get out of this here. Maybe once I stop sharing, I'll be able to see the chats. Oh, that did it. All right. Oh, I'm glad you like the site, Joanne. That's good. Definitely was breaking our own comfort zone, and with all the white space. But I'm glad that you. Seems like that's what people are wanting nowadays. So. All right. So Marianne asks how you check stats in WordPress. So there are plugins that you can install on your site that will allow you to check your stats in WordPress. But I think it makes more sense just to go to google.com/analytics and view your stats that way. Mostly because plugins are partly what could slow down a site. So you don't want to add plugins unless it's completely necessary. So that's kind of, my thoughts on that. Send me an email separately, Marianne, and I'll make sure you're added as a user on it so that you can see how to find that. All right, so that was Marianne's question. One person's raised their hand. I think I can allow you to talk. All right, did you want to ask a question, Savlana? I'll let everyone else have a minute to pose their question. Oh, oh, all right, no problem. I didn't realize that was you, Sarah. All right, let's see, I'll end that. Thanks, Marianne. Glad you like the site as well. So I think what the next step we'll do, I can take this disable talking. The next step is I'll send out these slides. I'll send out the slides so that you can have them as you're coming up with more ideas. And feel free to email me any questions that you have. And we're always here to help improve the websites moving forward. Thank you.